Coming up on this edition of Flashtalk here on Bally's Sports Ohio and Great Lakes, head ball coach Kenni Burns stops by to talk about the home opener and the trip to good old Rocky Top, Tennessee. Drew Wiemers, one of our GAs down in the AD's office, talks about a great experience he put together for our student athletes when we were out in Pittsburgh. Laura Rybka stops by to talk our distance runners and sing the praises of Beatty Bond, his big win just a few weeks ago. And Heather Hefner talks about her West Coast trip with the field hockey team and looking forward to our 50th anniversary celebration this Friday against Penn State. As always, we take a look around the wonderful world of Kent State athletics, and that's all coming up in a flash. Welcome back inside our Flash Talk studios. Dan Griffin alongside head ball coach Kenni Burns talking about the home opener. And let's first and foremost just talk a little bit about the atmosphere. We've been hyping up for weeks, and I think it exceeded our expectations. Really good home crowd on a beautiful September Saturday.
Yeah, I thought the crowd was unbelievable, and they definitely did their part. We got to do a better job of doing ours. But no, so thankful and thankful for the community, for the student body coming out. What a great college atmosphere for a home opener.
Guys in that second quarter responded really well with a couple of strong touchdown drives capped by highlight level catches again by Floria and McCray. I could get used to that.
Yeah, me too. We showed our youth, I thought, on Saturday a little bit. And, we started a little bit slow, and then we had a struggle to get in a rhythm. And I think everything is about having experiences and learning from them. And I think you saw our football team have an experience. And now I'm interested to see what they learn from it and how they respond next week against Tennessee.
Going through that film and the kind of the initial guttural reaction on Saturday, just kind of walk us through that and how the team, at least initially, has kind of taken that stomach punch.
Yeah, I think the first thing we did, you have to own it. Have to own the performance that we had. The thing I think they noticed when they watched the tape is that they were better than their opponent. Okay, and we always talk about in our program, more games are lost, not won. And we lost that game, about how we were executing. We weren't executing at a high level. And when you don't execute, you give your opponent chances to expose you. And we got exposed with a couple explosive runs getting out because we were misfit. And then the offense is just execution with the guy here or there. And again, youth, right? We have so many youth on our roster that guys, when the picture changes, kind of panic a little bit. It's correctable. It's stuff that, okay, we're not saying that we're outmatched talent-wise. This is a correctable thing that we've got to learn from and get better in our preparation in weeks to come. But like I told them, this is one game, and you can allow one game to define you, or you can let this game be a learning experience for you and grow and get better. And I think our team's going to do that. Again, these are guys that want to be here, that want to be great, and they're learning how to be. And, I talked about the Northern Illinois having the great win this weekend. That's a program that's got a cultural sustainability. They've been together for a long time with guys who've been through their system, and we're working for that here.
And it was only a few years ago where they had an 0-6 2020, and then before you know it, they're in the MAC. They're in the MAC championship game, and they're knocking off Notre Dame. I mean, they've kind of hit that accelerator after that, like you said, that learning experience of an entire season.
And there's so many teams like that in our league. Guys have got to go through experiences, and guys that you brought in. We're not a big transfer portal team. We bring in high school kids, we let them develop. Our starting centers are true freshmen. The guys next to them are both sophomores. They're learning how to play at the level that we need them to play at. And we've got to do a good job of coaching them as coaches, but then also developing them as young men.
First meeting ever with Tennessee, 7:45 under the lights. It's going to be a cool atmosphere, but a daunting task with how fast Tennessee has gotten out this season.
Yeah, I mean, they play with a fast tempo, obviously offense. They want to run a lot of plays and be on the field and score touchdowns, and they do a great job. They're a top 10 team, in my opinion. I've been doing this for long enough, and as in the Big Ten, I've seen a good team when what they look like, and this definitely is one. They've got very little weaknesses on offense and defense, and we've got a task ahead of us, and all we can do is play one play at a time, one moment at a time, and make sure we don't let the environment get too big for us.
It should be a lot of fun. It's going to be 7:45 on the SEC network, and of course the Kent State radio network. But last question here for you as you guys look to respond. Talk a little bit about some of the leaders, the voices in that locker room from a student athlete perspective that you're going to kind of be leaning on to go, all right, I've been through those fires. I've walked on those coals before. We've got 10 games left in front of us, man. Let's go and kind of do this.
Sure. And the great thing about our captains is you've got a little bit of both worlds. You got your Matt Harmons of the world who's been here for a long time. You got Caleb Johns who's been here for a long time. Luke Floria, who's been here for a long time. But then also you got the newer leaders in Alex Branch, Oliver Billett, and those guys who have a voice as well. And I think their voices got to ring high as well as we keep developing through this thing. But I sent them a quote this morning, and it was talking about tough times make tough people. And they've got to be able to handle this tough time of their career and get through it, because they don't last, but tough people do. And I think our guys are understanding that, and we'll get better. And I trust the leaders of our football team.
Looking forward to the challenge ahead of us on Saturday. Best of luck as you go to take on the Vols down in Rocky Top.
Yeah, hopefully the fan base is down there and go Flashes can't grip.
Welcome back into our Flash Talk studios. Dan Griffin, pleased to be joined with Drew Wiemers. He is a graduate assistant in our AD's office. I guess that's internal operations. And Drew, thanks for making an appearance.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So walk us through kind of a day-to-day. I know that the world of an AD is a lot more than meets the eye, and you're part of keeping that kind of under control.
Yeah. There's a lot more, I feel like, in this day and age that goes into, an AD's office, and there's just so much. I mean, you've seen positions expand, because of, what all that entails. But from my perspective, I'm just helping out our chief of staff and, trying for her to focus on, more of like the HR and that side of stuff. So taking some of the load off for administrative duties, whether that's, planning trips, itineraries, doing business operations, expense reimbursements. I'm coordinator for our IAC committee. So, I mean, there's quite a bit, and it just keeps on building, which I love, because I get my hands on so many experiences, and I can't thank them enough for, giving me this opportunity.
You are also a student athlete at Northern Illinois, and obviously pretty big weekend last weekend for the Huskies, but you kind of are mirrored an experience that you had with your time at NIU, with something you were able to kind of pay it forward when the Flashes went out to take on Pitt in week 1 for football. You saw it as an opportunity to expand that out to several different members of our student athlete advisory committee and beyond.
Yep. And speaking of NIU, I kind of, got the idea from Courtney Vincent, who, kind of had a trip similar to, kind of what we did. I kind of, made it our own at Kent State, but they went out to Boston College and, did a little Boston trip. So I thought, the idea was great, and how could we, make this our own and put a little, twist to it. So overall, I mean, it was an exceptional trip. It exceeded my expectations. The student athletes were phenomenal. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better group. They made connections between themselves and so many others, that were along on the trip. So it was, I mean, I can't say enough for, how much went into it. It was a long process, but, getting to see the vision come to fruition was really cool.
Everybody knows Steel City, but there's a lot more to it. You guys did the Heinz Museum. I'm very jealous you went to the Roberto Clemente Museum. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about some of the highlights of that trip. I know we documented it. We'll showcase that here on the show, but kind of just walk us through what you guys experienced over those couple of days.
So for me coming in, it was kind of built on 3 pillars: education, historical, and cultural significance. That's kind of what I modeled, where we went and what that kind of looked like. Like you mentioned, the tours were really cool. Our student athletes really, kind of loved, the Clemente Museum. That was a really cool, highlight of hearing his story and his background, especially for our baseball and softball. They can relate a little bit more. But overall, I mean, the Heinz History Center was really cool. That was a lot of info thrown at us, especially, earlier in the trip. So those 2 were really good. Our student athlete pregame tailgate cruise, that was probably their highlight. I think they enjoyed that more than anything, interacting with our donors and alumni, kind of getting our brand and their respective programs out there. They represented their programs really proudly.
It personalizes the money that they give. I mean, anybody can write a check and give it to a fill-in-the-blank program, but knowing the student athlete, who they're directly benefiting them, and hearing that personal thank you and going, hey, I really, your donation gave me and my teammates this experience or this benefit. I mean, to me, it kind of brings the whole thing kind of home. And from that aspect, you also kind of leverage some relationships at the University of Pittsburgh as well.
Kind of going off your point with the student athlete, pregame tailgate cruise, was we also got like mentorships and career opportunities from that. Our student athletes really were invested in, meeting with our donors and alumni, and, that kind of gave them, opportunity to, hear maybe what our donors and alumni are doing. And then, how can I do a track like that? So there were so many benefits from that standpoint. And then kind of starting off our trip at Pitt, it was really cool to see what another institution is doing, what we can take back. They have a lot of people in student athlete development, so that was eye-opening. But just getting ideas, bouncing back and forth, that was kind of the main theme of that. It was really good from that standpoint, and our student athletes, again, were really good at asking great questions and receiving great info and just a great dialogue to start the trip.
Well, thanks for helping put this all together, laying the foundation for what I hope becomes an annual tradition at any point during our calendar year. But thanks for doing the heavy lifting on the front end, and thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I mean, as always, go Flashes.
Welcome back into our Flash Talk studios. Dan Griffin going to hit the trail with Laura Rybka, our new cross-country coach or distance coach, I believe, with our track and field and cross-country team. And thank you for taking the time to talk a little about your program.
Thank you for having me here.
Well, first and foremost, welcome to Kent State. I know that you're back here in the Buckeye State. You coached in, I believe it was Grove City, which is a D3 over in Pennsylvania, where your kind of track record, pardon the pun, speaks for itself. You had a lot of success there. And how has been that transformation from Grove City back here at the Golden Flashes?
Oh, it's great. I'm so happy to be here. It's been a bit of an adjustment going from D3 to D1. Like, all the adjustments, all the new things have been great. I think I love the athletes here, love Kent, love the staff, love the vibes of the athletic department. I also have about a third of the amount of athletes I had at Grove City. So it also is nice to be able to give the more individual attention that I feel like they deserve.
I was at a D3 school myself way back when, and when you're using it to kind of boost enrollment, you end up with a roster of way too many to actually, like you said, give that personalized coaching that you guys are kind of bred to do. So let's talk a little about the success so far this season. Beatty Ba has been obviously outstanding throughout his Kent career, and this year, obviously, no exception. Is he cut the ribbon at the race at Akron a few weeks ago. That has to be extra sweet when a Golden Flash can cross the line first in the Rubber City.
Yeah, I think that is my first male cross country runner to ever win a race, which was pretty exciting. He's a phenomenal talent, but he has everything it takes to be great. Like, he cares, he wants to work hard, he knows how to compete. Like, when we're talking through things, it's like he's already thought of most of the things I'm like talking him through. And I think there's a couple things we're adding to his training that he maybe can kind of boost him up, I think, to be hopefully better than he's ever been.
This week, you guys are going to go to Ball State, which is kind of that MAC preview. Talk to us a little bit about that cross training, whether it's it's going to be a grind of a course. Those times aren't going to be great, but it's going to make you way better 6 weeks from now.
They do try to coach to compete, not necessarily about times. I think a lot of runners are obsessed with the time, but it's not about a time. It's about winning. I think every course is different, and it's knowing how to run each course. It's a lot like golf. Like, you might have a really hard golf course. You might have a golf course where, I don't know, like the putts are different, things like that. With cross country, it's knowing how to read courses. So when we're going over a course before we race it, I point certain things out. If it's hilly and you're a great downhill runner, you got to work the downhills. If it's flat, it might be a little more even the way you run turns. So we have like a lot we talk about the way that you run a race depending on the course. And my job is to teach them how to run each course the best they can, and give them the tools they need to succeed.
Each athlete's a little bit different. You know them, obviously you get to know them and how they like to attack a course. How do you get them to kind of stay to that game plan when maybe somebody kind of rabbits out ahead and or you kind of get caught up with how a race is being run around you, not what the coaching was going into that week?
With racing, there's a difference if you're a leader versus you're in the pack. If you're in a leader, you do have the ability to control the race, and Beatty even will like control the race sometimes from behind, which is what you want to do because then you don't have to do all the work. If you're in the middle and things are like going out fast, it depends on the race. If it's a wide course, you have time to make it up, so you stick to your plan. If it's a narrow course, you might have to like go with those people because otherwise it might be too narrow to catch back up. So part of it's having different tools in the toolbox that you can pull out. So I might say, here's our A plan, here's our B plan, here's our C plan. If this happens, you do this. If this happens, you do this. When it gets to championship racing, I often will have like notes on exactly like, hey, these are the scenarios that could happen. And like, this is what you're supposed to do in that scenario.
Thank you very much for taking a few moments. Best of luck this week at Ball State and while you guys train for the rest of the cross country and distance season.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Let's take a look at what's going on around our busy world of Kent State athletics. As always, we're brought to you by KSUTix.com. Our busy weekend starts on Friday afternoon when our field hockey team hosts the Penn State Nittany Lions at 3 p.m. It'll be a powder blue out plus our 50 years of field hockey celebration. Later on Friday, our volleyball team is in the Queen City taking on Xavier. That is a 6 p.m. first serve, while our soccer team is down in the Bluegrass State to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. That is a 7 p.m. start time. On Saturday, the volleyball team keeps at it in Cincinnati, taking on UC. That's at 1 p.m. Our cross-country team is out in Muncie, Indiana for the Ball State MAC preview, and our football team will take on the 7th-ranked Tennessee Vols at Tennessee, 7:45 on the kickoff, 7:15 pregame show on the Kent State Radio Network. And our weekend wraps on Monday with our men's golf team teeing it up at the Canadian Collegiate. For news, stats, and more, follow us on your favorite social media platform at Kent State Athletics and read about your favorite teams at KentStateSports.com. More Flash Talk right after this. Welcome back inside our Flash Talk studios. Dan Griffin alongside Heather Hefner, our field hockey coach, and welcome back to the East Coast, or at least the Eastern time zone. You guys spent the past week out in, I'm hoping, sunny California.
Yeah, it was for the most part. It was a lot of fun. Definitely glad to be back, long trip, a little under a week, but we had a good time out there for sure. 3
matches in 4 days. That's kind of a non-conference tournament-like atmosphere, almost a California invitational, if you will. I have to imagine that was part of the strategy that went into this.
It's tough to go 3 games in 4 days for sure. Plus, traveling out there definitely doesn't make it easy, but we're really happy for the experience. I think, getting out there, 3 losses, which is not exactly what we wanted, but I think in any loss is a lesson learned. And so I feel like came back actually with a really clear roadmap of where we need to go moving forward. And so I'm always thankful for that, right? We don't just, lose and then kind of move on. So we lose and we take what we've learned and the mistakes that we've made and the things that we need to push the girls. And so I'm honestly really excited for coming back.
It seemed like against UC Davis, you run into a hot goalie and there's not much really you can do. You peppered the Aggies pretty much for 4 quarters.
Yeah, sometimes that's the way it goes. I think that's one of the things moving forward, though, we want to continue to refine is how we attack in the attacking third, right? When we're entering that 25 in our circle, how to be successful and not just have shots on the board, but goals on the board. And I think anytime where your shots aren't falling and the goals aren't happening, you have to keep it really clean on the defensive side of things, right? So that it stays a little bit more even, and we didn't necessarily do that as much as we could have.
We know we need to be that much sharper, that much quicker when we're going against a Power 5 conference, and it just tightens everything up for the conference play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about that last time I was on here, but love it. Like, I love that our schedule, obviously nobody loves to see the 0-5, but to know that we are getting better because we're playing teams that are challenging us really excites me, because I know as we keep putting one foot forward, we're getting better. And, each game that comes, whether that's this weekend or once we hit MAC play, I think we're going to be that much more ready.
This coming Friday, and it's really a cool celebration. 50 years of field hockey. We've got a number of programs celebrating that milestone this year, and you guys are kind of the lid lifter of what's going to be a fantastic celebration all season long. And just talk a little bit about the excitement of returning home and then bringing in a quality side like Penn State.
We're excited for the weekend. I think one of our mission statement of the program is honor the past, serve the present, inspire the future. And so, the fact that we get to celebrate the 50 years and bring in the alums and people back that have really, paved the way and created a legacy here at Kent State, I'm really excited for our girls get to, actually live that out, honoring the past and celebrating those people that have come before them. I think it's always really important that they realize they're not the only ones that have worn the jersey, right? There's people before them that have made it really special and put Kent State where we are today.
From your experience growing up playing the game and now playing in college and now serving it as a coach, just talk about, in your experience, the growth of the game and how we've gotten here to celebrate for Kent State at least 50 years of varsity field hockey.
The game has changed so much. I think of the pace of the game has just exponentially increased. Them obviously adding the self-start rule, however many years it was back, had really picked up the pace of the game. And then I think you just look at the talent level and, the dedication of the girls that are playing now. And it's just, it's incredible. There's way more clubs that have popped up. There's way more, at the grassroots level, which is, I think, what has kept hockey back in the past, is not having, especially in America, much for young kids to play. Anybody, you think about a lot of kids, they grow up, they kick a soccer ball around, and so they all know soccer at 3 years old, whereas hockey hasn't been that exposed. And so I feel like that's starting to happen. It's starting to be drip fed in different areas and different initiatives. And so I think it's really made the game grow.
Just the nonstop action that field hockey brings to the table, to where even if they're not familiar with the game, they're going to be intrigued. They're going to want to know more. And that kind of maybe sparks that love and growth of the game even more.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, Division I athletes, there's a professionalism to them. And so these young kids see, I think another big thing has been the exposure on TV, right? The more the hockey that's actually on TV, the girls get to watch at home. Young girls get to see, wow, they're on TV. And that makes it feel that much more professional and that much more like, wow, I want to go do that someday.
A big field hockey celebration weekend kicks off with the game at 3:00 down at Murphy Millis Field as the Nittany Lions come to town. And, well, thank you very much. Glad to see you're back here. And let's get some rest and go after those Nittany Lions here on Friday.
Yeah, that's the plan. Go Flashes, every piece.
That's going to do it for this edition of Flash Talk. Join us next week when we take another deep dive into the wonderful world of Kent State athletics with our administrators and coaches. For all of us here inside the GFTV studios, this is Dan Griffin saying goodnight and go Flashes.